Let's be honest. Most coaches aren't just going to flat out tell us things, right? They have an agenda, they have a different spin on things. So you kind of have to watch, listen, maybe read a little bit between the lines. That's dangerous to a certain degree, right? You're trying to guess, decode what certain things mean. But I want to do it anyway today with Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell taking a look and listen at some things he said Monday in his availability with the media. They get back from London. They've just won a close game, a tense game against the Browns, a gotta have it game, 21-17. They're tired. They've got a bunch of time off now, theoretically at least, but this is not really a vacation for a lot of people. Maybe for some of the players, get their bodies right, get some time off. For the coaching staff, I get the idea that this will be anything but a quiet week. So they stand at 3-2 right now. So what is he thinking? What did he say Monday that tells us kind of what he's thinking, where this could be headed? I got a few things. I got like four things. A little bit of it gleaned from Sunday's post game too, but four things that I want to get to as we kind of read between the lines with KOC. Number one, this is the story that hasn't quite gone away. It's like the third day take on it, but Kevin O'Connell did address it on Monday, was asked about it. I believe it was the Star Tribune's Emily Leiker that asked him about it. Will Reichard had the kick on Sunday. Vikings are trailing 17-14. There's about 9 minutes left in the game. 9:46, I think, is the exact amount. And he kicks it. It's a 51-yarder. It's looking pretty good, and then it seems like it veers off to the right. And then on the replays, you can kind of see this wire kind of moving up, and it gets kind of just somehow, some way, the ball and the wire seem to meet. There's all sorts of speculation after the game. Did the ball hit something and deflect to the right? It sure looks like it did. Kevin O'Connell was asked about it on Monday. Here is what he had to say about it.
I didn't notice anything during the game. That's a pretty tough angle normally for us anyway. Most of the time I'm just trying to gauge the crowd reaction of, depending on if the video board in the stadium is in real time. Sometimes it's on a slight delay, so you can't watch that, but you're really trying to just gauge the crowd reaction. And we did have a lot of purple at Tottenham Stadium, so it was one I did not notice it. I did not see it in the moment. I would defer to the league on if that's something that there should be some protocols in place that I should know about. But other than maybe somebody in the booth alerting me that they saw it, or Will himself is going to be a critical guy in that moment. But a lot of times a kicker's a lot like a golf swing. They're keeping their head down, and they might not even see it initially. He told me he thought he hit it well, and Will doesn't end up that far offline, historically, since our time having him here. But yeah, not really sure what to say on that one, other than that was unfortunate if it did happen, and if it didn't, so be it.
Okay, so let's read between the lines with Kevin O'Connell on that. What is he saying there? Because he's not going to say this definitively happened. He's not going to throw the NFL under the bus. But Kevin O'Connell does not say Will Reichard thought he hit it good. He doesn't usually miss that bad if he hits it good, unless he thinks. I think Kevin O'Connell thinks that it hit a wire. I think the Vikings think that it hit a wire. I think the Vikings are calm about it right now because they ended up winning the game, right? It didn't end up being a big thing because Carson Wentz, we'll get to him in a minute, takes them down the field at the end of the game. They still end up winning 21-17. So instead of it being a costly miss that probably should have been a tie game with 10 minutes left, instead of it costing them potentially the game, they still win. If it cost them the game, nothing you can do about it, but you would be furious. I have a feeling that there would be much more drama and talk about it at this point. But so now he can kind of downplay it a little bit. He can be like, if it did, if it didn't, it's unfortunate. I don't know what the protocols are, stuff like that. But he would not have said that about Will Reichard's kicks if he didn't think, I don't think, he wouldn't say it if he didn't think that that ball did, in fact, hit something on the way that changed its flight path and made it go to the right. Second thing from Kevin O'Connell that we're reading between the lines on, this is probably more important, big picture. It's on the quarterback situation. Couple things here that caught my attention. First thing, very early on in his availability, I think this is even before he got asked a single question, he gave an update on Carson Wentz's injury status. Remember, he left the game for a little while with that shoulder injury on Sunday, came back and played the second half. He gave an update on that, and then gave a pretty long, kind of multi-part evaluation of J.J. McCarthy, where he's at, 3 different places. So the Carson Wentz thing is early. Then I'm going to play little clips of 3 different spots where he talked about J.J. McCarthy. So let's get to that right here.
Just to give you guys an update on Carson, we did get back pretty late, early, really actually early this morning. So he's still getting further evaluation, but he's pretty sore in that left shoulder. So that will be something that we'll be taking a look at throughout this week. On a kind of a different note, we do expect, hopefully 4 players to return to practice in different capacities next week. But J.J. McCarthy, Donovan Jackson, Blake Cashman will have his 21-day window opened, and then Michael Juergens should be able to come back to the practice field.
2 weeks.
Yeah, I think it's a good opportunity to get back to. He's had some real moments of growth through this time. I think watching the way Carson's kind of gone through progressions quickly, just the value of putting the ball in play, even when it's not your first progression, even when it's not, the most exciting completion of all time, and you're getting to TJ off of a little nudge and a protection to help here or there, and TJ's kind of the check down element. TJ's catching some of those balls. He had one on that, the touchdown drive at the end where he caught just a simple ball over the middle and went for 14 with some really good run after catch. So I think he's kind of taken a lot of that, of just watching it closely and my dialogue with him. But I think it's going to be the most critical part is going to be technique and fundamentals of playing the position the way he worked so hard to build up throughout the spring and the summer, getting him back into kind of the mandatory nature of certain things from a fundamental standpoint that will only help him perform at a high level. So I think it's going to be more about the physical side of his lower body mechanics and then just trying to put together a game plan for him throughout the practices of like how much can he do, what's the soreness level coming out of practices to be able to try to have the most consistent level of a ramp up we can with him.
Okay, so here's my take on where things stand on the quarterback front as we kind of head into the bye week, head into the next game against the Eagles. First things first, he didn't have to say a single thing about Carson Wentz. So when a coach volunteers information like that, tells us that Carson Wentz is a little bit sore, says he's going to keep getting evaluated throughout the week, but then they don't have to talk to us for a while. That tells me he's planting a seed a little bit like, hey, Carson Wentz might not be 100% either going into that Eagles game, which opens the door, I think, even a little bit more for J.J. McCarthy. Now, I feel like J.J. McCarthy is going to be the quarterback in that Eagles game as long as he is 100% or as close to 100% as you can be coming off of an ankle sprain, right? He's going to be ramping up this week. Sounds like he's going to be in the building all week. Already was Monday. You heard him talking about things he's learned during this time off. Taking the quick completions. Maybe the game plan changes a little bit once J.J. McCarthy comes back. You maybe have like a Carson Wentz style game plan with J.J. McCarthy. Not asking him to do quite as much. Simplify things a little bit. Ask him to simplify things. Don't take away his playmaking ability, but say, hey, you know what? Look at what Carson Wentz was doing. Look at what he was doing at the end of games. Look at how he was taking simple completions, things like that. So but I think Kevin O'Connell is eager to get J.J. McCarthy back on the field. I think if he is 95%, close to 100% as you can get coming off of an injury still, I think he plays in 2 weeks because I do feel like he's got the bye week to rest and practice. Then he's got a full week to ramp up. I feel like we're heading towards J.J. McCarthy playing on that playing against the Eagles based on intuition, based on what Kevin O'Connell is saying, and based on the fact that, Carson Wentz, it's been fine. He's been a good placeholder. He's kind of done what you would want a backup quarterback to do. Pro Football Focus doesn't think that highly of what he's done. They have him as the number 28 quarterback out of 37. Again, not bad, but not someone who's coming in and played so well that he's just stolen a job, made you not want to play JJ McCarthy, made you not want to see what else JJ McCarthy can do. McCarthy, I think, he's even lower in those rankings. By the way, very last in those rankings is Aaron Rodgers, 37th out of 37. Interesting there, even though the Steelers are 3-1. Very high on the list, I might add. Sam Darnold's in the top 3, and Daniel Jones is in the top 10. Both those guys having outstanding seasons. Guys who, of course, were on the Vikings roster last season. Darnold playing all the games. Jones coming in after being released by the Giants. So it's a complicated quarterback situation, but just everything he's saying about JJ McCarthy and the Carson Wentz injury update makes me think that Kevin O'Connell is leaning towards, hey, if McCarthy's healthy, he's the guy against the Eagles in 2 weeks. All right, those are the two big things. A couple other smaller things, but still notable things as we kind of think about what was said Monday and what was said post-game. Number one, Kevin O'Connell has gone out of his way to praise the work that Blake Brandell did at center in this game, talking about how he got asked multiple times about it. He's praising him left and right, brought him up unprompted. One of the first things he mentioned, 45 seconds into his news conference, they got asked about it again later in the news conference. Let's listen to what he had to say first about Blake Brandell stepping in and playing center for the first time.
A lot of things to really, touch on from the game, but I have to start out and just compliment our offensive line, the group we had out there to start the game, and then obviously, had some guys, some moving parts there throughout, but I thought Blake Brandell, for his first time playing center, the tape really, personified everything we think of Blake and have from a versatility standpoint, but for him to step in and run the show the way he did, communicate, and played with physicality and technique was a real positive for Blake. I think what we learned is we have another high quality center option with Blake, and getting Jergs back practicing again will give us a chance to assess what the best 5 looks like, and that's what we'll go with, and we'll work through that accordingly. But Blake had a really, really strong day.
Now, it does sound like they'll be able to get Michael Juergens back in practice. He's trying to get rebound from that hamstring injury that kept him out of this game. But it was interesting. It was notable to hear him say, hey, we're going to see where Juergens is at physically, and we're going to figure out who the best 5 is going forward. So I think he saw something in Blake Brandell, who had played guard before. He'd played tackle before. Sounds like Brandell really took to the position of center quite naturally. Maybe that's a fit for him. Maybe he becomes a center going forward. Maybe he keeps his versatility, but that could be, even if Juergens is healthy with Ryan Kelly on injured reserve now, you could see more of Blake Brandell potentially at center. Just the way he's talking about Blake Brandell, how much he liked what he saw from Blake Brandell, wouldn't surprise me to see him play even if Juergens is cleared and is healthy. Final thing, this isn't something that came up Monday, but Kevin O'Connell is not happy with the fumbling that's going on. You saw both Jordan Mason and Xavier Scott fumble in the win over the Browns. They got away with it. I think they're now 5-17 under O'Connell when they lose the turnover battle. They had been 4-17. Rare for them to win a game when they lose the turnover battle, and it was a 2-0 turnover battle against them in that game. That was the second time that Mason's fumbled this season. The other one could have been massive against the Steelers, but they got the ball back. You remember when it was ruled that he touched the ball while he was out of bounds. Otherwise, that was going to be a fumble, scoop, and score for Jalen Ramsey. Then the very next week, he puts it on the ground again, and they lose that one. Same with Xavier Scott's in the game later. A huge turning point in the game. He puts it on the ground. He's fumbled twice this season too now, and not that many touches, 22 touches. So you've got 4 fumbles between those two guys. Now you saw Aaron Jones, who's on injured reserve right now, he had a fumbling problem last season, right? He had 4 fumbles in a 3-game span. You're like, what's going on? They stuck with him, but they did have to take him out of a game one time when it was like, hey, You got to hold on to the ball. So I do wonder, they got to get that straightened out. He's not going to, O'Connell is not going to handle these fumbles very well. I think he will stick with Mason, but I think they're going to do some extra work on this. And got to remember, they've got Cam Akers, who I think only has like 4 career fumbles and like over 500 career touches. Like, that's not perfect, but that's pretty reliable. Kevin O'Connell has never seen him fumble in a Vikings uniform in more than 100 touches over the last few years. So he's got a reliable ball security running back kind of in his back pocket. He had didn't have a lot of offensive impact in the Browns game running the ball, but he did throw that touchdown pass that got them on the board, tied the game. So he talked a lot about Cam Akers in the passing game, how he trusts Cam Akers. Wouldn't be surprising to see him have more of a role maybe as a backup, especially because you've seen Xavier Scott put the ball on the ground twice now in like 22 touches this season. Maybe Cam Akers gets elevated. Maybe he's the second back now because he's somebody that you can trust, and trust is a big deal to coaches. So that's what I'm reading between the lines from Kevin O'Connell. Hope you enjoyed this attempt at breaking this down on this episode.